There's a lot of pretenders in the market, and there's very few contenders. And the good news is, at any point in time, we can shift to listening to those who are actually winning with repeat formulas. But we have to learn to listen to executive dialogue. That's hard to do.
From my experience and also what I've watched and observed, the majority of the companies that fail, as you mentioned, 96% fail because of lack of financing and because of the inability to raise capital. They don't have the skills, they don't know where to look for raising capital, they don't have the time, and so on. So
It's a big part, but I would add too, again, all these businesses, even the ones that go past the 10-year mark, you look at the fintech space, within 20 years, over 75% of venture-backed fintech startups are also dying. So the capital is still killing them as well. But what happens is, if everybody's on a road that leads to a dead end or a brick wall, or it leads off of a cliff, then when companies get backing, normally they just run off the cliff faster. And so what we've got to also do is look at, well, what's missing? What else is missing? But I love what you said, because so many entrepreneurs think they can do it without investing, and you just can't. Your car can't go anywhere if you don't have gas in the car. You've got to have gas in the car, and you've got to have clear destinations, and you've got to be able to remove obstacles and see opportunities. So there's a lot of nuance to it.
welcome to the Grow and Learn Podcast, your go-to source for expertise and insights on a variety of topics: business growth, leadership, technology, personal and business finance, and more. We've curated a vast network of business experts ready to address your company's most pressing challenges. From corporate growth strategy to leadership, marketing strategy, sales strategy, branding, customer relations, technology, AI, IT security, and beyond, we connect you to the best experts for your needs. Reach out to us for more information or schedule a call at grownlearn.org to explore how we can support you. I'm talking to Jackson Calame today. Welcome to Grow and Learn. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's helping people and entrepreneurs figure out processes, ways to make money. Jackson, would you please repeat all of the companies that you have been involved in? And by the way, before we continue with the business, you're a parent of four.
Yep, single parent of four.
Single parent of four that manages work-life balance or parenthood work balance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to hear how you're doing this. This has probably to do with your optimized processes, but tell us a bit about your story of entrepreneurship.
100%. The book nobody wants to read, The Effective Executive by Dr. Peter Drucker. Almost nobody reads that book, and I wish they would. It would help a lot. I've been a stay-at-home father since my first daughter was born in 2010, long before COVID hit. And I did have the privilege of being at home and being present for everything. So all of you entrepreneurs out there, we don't have to make the excuse that we have to be in the office. You might have to. I'm not here to control your life. I just know it was right for me. I needed to be with my kids. It was very important for me to be a father and not put that off until later. For the entrepreneurship side, the very first startup that we launched was a Y Combinator. And I had just joined as the first employee of that company, and it was invested in by Paul Buchheit, the inventor of Gmail, and Matt Cutts, the search director of Google. And that didn't happen on day one. First, you become a Y Combinator, then you have to impress them. So 5 months later, we found ourselves with $537 left in the bank account. I got laid off, and I came back to work the next day, and my boss said, "What the heck are you doing? I already let you go." And I said, "I'm this close to my accounts." And he said, you can't work for me. I can't pay you. And I said, "I'm going to my desk and I'm going to make my phone calls." And he said, "Well, Jackson's crazy. He's going to work for free, whatever." And he left. He was sad. He was upset. He was losing his baby. His baby was dying. And so to put this in perspective, that company helped newspapers drive revenues so that we could save the freedom of the press. And they had 7 newspapers in 7 years. That month, I closed 21 newspapers. And it was a total of about $36,000, $33,000, I think it was, and a 70-30 split with the newspapers for all of these tools we were providing, SEO, websites, etc. And it was 2 weeks later when Matt Cutts and Paul Buchheit sent us $10 million. they saw that the concept was proven, right? So then
Okay,
from there, go
let
ahead.
me have this
Yeah,
sink
of
in because
course.
this is impressive. You're the founder of Y Combinator.
No. Y Combinator, the founder is Paul Buchheit, the inventor
Uh-huh.
of Gmail, and Matt Cutts, the search
Yeah.
director of Google. Good question.
Okay, so you got on board with with their accelerator program.
Yep.
Got it.
Absolutely. You can actually read a little bit about that story in Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offer. He writes about Lloyd and this newspaper technology in a brief story that he shares in there. That was shocking to see. I was like, whoa, he's talking about our startup. So from there, I go to a software firm. We weren't even a software firm. We were building restaurant software bootstrapped out of our apartments. And we were burning cash left and right, Zarina. We knew how to spend it. We did not know how to make it. We were picking up furniture on the side of the road, repainting it and selling it on Craigslist just to get by while we were trying to also build this company. Fast forward 3 years, hard work, discipline, working with all sorts of the greatest hospitality companies in the world. And we were at 36,000 in recurring monthly revenues. Again, guys, don't forget the hard work. We raised $100,000 with the Baylor Angel Network. We smoked every single company that came in there because we put in the hard work to know how to build this company, right? So then a couple years later, I found myself at Video Power Marketing. So I worked at a custom software firm in between there, great custom software firm, building all sorts of web development apps, integrating pharmacies information for HEB, the grocery stores, and building some programs in the service industry, pest control, HVAC space, all the boring stuff people don't want to hear about, right? Then I end up with Jake Larson at Video Power Marketing.
But before that, were you with the investment that you got, the 100K, were you doing this alongside with the software job?
Great. No. So I was full to Restaurant Connect. I was doing 100-hour work weeks. 100-hour work weeks, one Saturday off per month. Again, working from home, so I was still there and present, but it was a grueling process. At nights, I was going into restaurants, shadowing, seeing how things were going. I told my business partners, I will work like this until my daughter's 3. When my daughter is 3 years old, I'm no longer going to be the face of the company. I'm no longer going to work at this pace. I'll be the janitor if I have to be the janitor, but I am not going to sacrifice my relationship with my daughter. So that day came. They did not agree once the day came, and we had a little bit of an implosion, and I ended up leaving my partnership on Restaurant Connect. Fast forward 10 years, we came back together. And so there's some bumps and bruises that go along this path of entrepreneurship and our relationship skills, our willingness to care about people before profits. That can do some amazing things. When Adam and I got back together, I had every right to be upset at him, right? I had every right to accuse him of things. Instead, when I got on the phone and was ready to kind of fight with him, I said, you know what? I said, Adam, what went wrong with us, man? We were like best friends. We were brothers. I did my things wrong. You guys did yours. What happened to us? We talked about that for just like 2-3 minutes, got back into bonding. And he goes, Jackson, the day you left Restaurant Connect is the day we peaked. We never recovered after you left. It was such an awesome validation point. It was such a great time for us to come back together. We ended up moving forward again with Restaurant Connect, and then COVID crushed us. COVID shut all the restaurants down, and our software ended up getting pretty hurt by that. He still got it open, but we're not where we were. But we did have our 15-year run with it. And I hope we do recover it at some point, but right now is not the time for that. So, good
Still
question.
not?
Sorry?
Is it still not the time?
No, it's not. I've got
I've
got too many other companies that are more scalable right
what
now.
you mean.
And so with the current track record, we've got one restaurant partner that's considering coming in. But you don't want to force issues. I'm a big fan of following intuition, following prayer. And if prayer and intuition aligns for me, then I'm going to move forward in that direction. So I hope Adam continues to keep that operational. And then when the day comes where we've got excess investment capital, then I think I'll probably put something back into that and try to get that going again, because the software is phenomenal. But the idea of running that day to day right now, I don't want to do that. I like helping my Latinos. I like helping other entrepreneurs with their visions in the podcast world. It's a whole lot more fun than restaurants. Restaurants are hard. For those who haven't launched one, hardest business model you can find, launch a restaurant if you like hard. So here, go ahead.
This platform that you're running right now, I do want to ask you about it, but before that,
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I will ask you. But before that, I wanted to ask you about the raising of capital. How did you go about this? I know it sometimes takes one person full time for about 6 months to go about and send around applications. How did you manage to fund all of your companies?
Yep. So the first one, we were self-funded until the Y Combinator. They raised with angel investors, and I'm not sure if Lloyd knew what that was or not. I'd love to give you guys a cheat sheet on it. So I've got a program called Power Launch, and in Power Launch, I give that away for free to everybody. It's an infrastructure of over 55 hours worth of work.
Wow.
Again, if you don't want to work, don't get in my program. 2, please never raise capital without testimonials, case studies, and proof that you're an actual expert, because you will go to prison eventually. I'm going to say that again. You will eventually go to prison or jail if you raise capital without knowing what you're doing. So if you think you know what you're doing, you do not. If you haven't put the 10,000 hours in, if you haven't gotten yourself to a point where you're making a huge difference in this world, you're going to end up like Ja Rule with the Fire, whatever it was called, event that it's on Netflix. He launched this big event for a concert. It didn't actually come to fruition, and he went to prison. Versus Elon Musk, who sold 180,000 cars from stage that wouldn't exist for 2 to 3 years. People paid $1,000 each, and he's the new Albert Einstein. He's the new Thomas Edison. Why? Because he fulfilled on the vision that he promised the world. So you got to be a fulfillment expert. Back to my point, Power Launch has a section in it called Raising Capital 101. I don't know anybody else who teaches capital the way that I do. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a finance guru. I don't have certifications on this. You can't hold me liable for what you see in there. You got to use this responsibly yourself. And the key for me is you got to be super authentic and open about your vision. You've got to set healthy boundaries with the people you're talking to. And if they're investing for the strict reality of getting a return and you're guaranteeing them, again, you're going to go to prison. Investments are not about guarantees. They're about opportunities. And the sooner you can talk about opportunities and talk about finances responsibly with people, the sooner you can put your brand into a position to grow. Most angel investors have no idea they're angel investors. They don't think of themselves that way. They're just everyday people who, if you can go and have an everyday conversation with, well, most Americans are in a financial position to where they can invest in opportunities. They just don't know how, and they're scared of it. And if you can't present it well and don't know how to talk about finances, again, you don't really have any business raising capital. So make sure that you learn what you need to learn. But I went through the process of first, Y Combinator, second, the Baylor Angel Network, third, Video Power was self-funded, and Video Power was the startup of Jake Larson. Jake Larson was called by the founder of YouTube. He literally got a phone call from him, and he says, hey, we want you to come out to headquarters and help us with this advertising platform that we're about to launch. So this was YouTube pre-ads, right? He goes out there with another 9 other ambassadors, and they decided that if the advertisement sucks, we should be able to skip it after 5 seconds, right? So everybody's waiting to skip the ads. Why? Because, well, Jake Larson and that team at YouTube decided we shouldn't have to watch crappy ads. So he went and took that. He turned it into a course called Turn Your Views into Sales. And he called me up and he says, Jackson, you're the most critical person I've ever met. I need your feedback. And I was like, that's the worst compliment I could ever get. Zarina, can you imagine one of your friends calls you and says, hey, you're the worst, you're the most critical, most difficult person I know. Help me out here. And I was like, oh, geez. So he let me know his story. Long story short, I told him, like, dude, you got to run with this. Like, this is amazing. So he launches Video Power. Ryan Dice of Digital Marketer puts him on stage, calls him the YouTube ad expert of the world. And he had John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire as a client. Shout out to him. Dan Martell, SaaS Academy, Vivint, Home Security, Yahoo.com, Corel, REI Success Academy. Lots of big names running YouTube ads through his program. All these people had minimum ad spend budgets of $10,000 per month on YouTube ads. They were massive. His producer, Travis Chambers, produced the number one YouTube ad of the decade with Kobe Bryant and Lionel Messi on Turkish Airlines. I mean, this is a rock star lineup of people. And so I came into this company, and in 18 months, we were able to triple results. Why and how? Because they didn't have any infrastructure. They were just great at virality. And I was awful at virality. I didn't know how virality worked. I didn't know how ads worked. I was like every other small business owner out there. We worked our tail off to figure out how to bridge the gaps, and road warriors, and we grow with referrals, which is a fast way. Everybody refers business to us. That's the fastest way to admit that, oh, you can't attract strangers. The only people who will work with you are people who are handed to you on a silver platter. So I'm looking at this company going, wow, he's got 2 interns, and he's got 70,000 people per month coming to his website, and he's larger than life. How do I help businesses do that while also helping them with the infrastructure, procedures, resources, templates, knowing how to scale this business model? So we ran we ran a campaign for Nordic Track treadmills. $15,000 spent on ads led to $430,000 in sales.
Wow,
So
you still remember all the numbers. That's impressive.
Well, 32 to 1 return is hard to forget. That means every dollar they spent, somebody clicked on a treadmill and bought it. And I was blown away. I was like, who the heck clicks on a video and buys an $1,800 treadmill without taking any other action? That's insane. I'd never done anything like that before. So these experiences completely shattered all the paradigms I had about business and how business could be successful. And so my job at the company was exactly what Jake said. My job was to help Jake see who was a pretender in the market and who was a contender, because if we ran ads for a company that was going to fail or that wasn't able to fulfill or wasn't able to scale, we didn't have a case study and a testimonial. So it was my job to tell people like Dr. Eric Berg, hey, look, I know you got 106,000 subscribers, but your website's awful. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I would never send friends or family to it, and nobody's ever going to buy from you until you fix it. And Dr. Eric Berg went like this. He wrote notes and wrote notes and wrote notes and wrote notes. He didn't get mad at me. He didn't say, what do you know? I'm a doctor. I have 106,000 subscribers. What do you know about colors, Jackson? Yellow and red are important colors. And no, he didn't get pretentious. He just took it, ate it up, and built it. If you look at his subscribers now, just Google Dr. Eric Berg. He's got 12 million subscribers worldwide. Why? Because great leaders listen. They want feedback. They want to grow. They know that they're getting in their own way. And they know that in order to get out of their own way, they've got to be willing to talk to people openly about what their problems are. And they've got to be willing to let go of the blind spots and say, you know what, maybe this person knows some things, but they also have a really strong connection with recognizing who really cares about them. And until we can recognize who cares about us, everybody's coming at us, right? With all these cool opportunities. No, just know that 99% of people don't know what they're doing. You got to figure out, how do I recognize the 1% of people who do know what they're doing, and then lean into relationships with them.
So how do you recognize that? How do you recognize the 1% people?
I don't know how everybody will, but for me, what I do is I look at the core values. That's the biggest thing for me. So Simon Sinek says, start with why. And I almost agree with him. I think that's step 2. I would have never listened to Simon Sinek if I didn't believe in who he was as a leader. I always start with who. And who is defined for me by my values. 1, my foundation is love. I get hangry. I'm not always loving, but I know I'm wrong when I leave that. So my foundation is love 100%. 2, I look for people who are patient. Patience is a virtue. It's a very important one. In business, we love to sacrifice it. We want to be persistent, right? And so most people are persistent or patient. I look for people who are patient and persistent. Then I look for people who are consistent. They show up every day, right? They get their things done. They do the same. Every time they go live, they kind of have the same vibe about what they're not robots, but I can rely on them, which leads to the last one, reliability. Right, so reliability is a different level than consistency. There's different aspects that we look at. So we've created what I call a combine. That's not a new term. That's what the NFL and the NBA and elite sports authorities use, or sports leagues use, in order to assess people before they come into the league. And so Harvard does the same thing. Stanford, Yale, all these great organizations, they create supply and demand in their favor And then based on that, they allow people to go through processes of filtration that define who would be a good student here or who would be a good athlete here. And once they've tested enough on the front end to see that, you know what, we're safe with these individuals exude the types of behaviors that we want in our culture, then we have a good idea that, okay, as long as they now want to work with us and we want to work with them, then we will consider moving forward and building a scope of work. And that works for all 6 relationships that most businesses fail to even recognize we need. We have prospect relationships, we have client relationships or customer relations, then we have candidates, job candidates, then we have strategic partners, then we have investors, and lastly, we have PR and media. All 6 of those relationships require different levels of funnels, procedures, resources, and templates in order to help those individuals catch the vibe, feel safe, be attracted, get inspired, and want to be invited to do something with us.
In your company, do you have people responsible for managing each of these communication channels?
We strive to. So we're pretty small right now. We look forward to having that more, having less hats on our heads. Right now, I've got a level of hats a mile high. So do the 20 people we work with. So what we do with that is we recognize that one, it's part of love, right? You got to be merciful. You got to be graceful. You got to recognize that it's not going to be perfect day to day. There's going to be challenges, right? But do we show up and do our best? Right, that's a big piece of it. And yes, we have an org board that every 3 months, every quarter, we try to readjust the org board and make sure the right people are doing the right things. What does that mean? It means finding out what people love to do and trying to help them get centered around what they love. Then, in addition to that, the people are constantly trained on executive behaviors. We believe in this poster behind me. That's Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Everybody who comes in to work with us, that's required reading. Why? Because most people have never worked in a championship level culture. If you've never worked in one, you don't know how to behave in one. So we need to make sure that people who come in are all trained up for that. And then we have a really genius level spreadsheet that my assistant created. Her name's Ange Castro of Timecraft Virtual. She runs her own company and podcast as well. We build it out with her and for her, because we want people to have abundance. We don't limit people and say you have to be here. No, we want people to go and build what they want to build. That's why they want to stay with us. And so in her case, she built this team duties page, and every column on this spreadsheet represents a task. And we put the tasks in order for you start your day with this column and you move through it. And then based on how hard the column is, we got green, yellow, and red. Green means you can hand it off to somebody once we have somebody available. Yellow means you can train somebody, but they're going to need a little bit more hand holding. And red, that column means only I know how to do it. And now our responsibility is to figure out, okay, how do we make sure that we create the procedures, resources, and templates so that you're not stuck being the only one who does this, and so that this can be handed off to somebody else. That way the people can keep rising in their executive behaviors and become better leaders with what we do. So I know I just like fire hosed a lot of you with a lot of stuff, but just know that you got to care about people. You got to care about processes. So,
I am reading one book still for the past few weeks by Roy Osing called. What's the title again? Just a second.
Roy Osing. Let's look it up.
Be Different or Be Dead is the title of the book. So he actually challenges the general notion that delegation helps you grow, because he says it really depends where you delegate. And lots of people tend to just give off work rather than not delegate crucial client-facing roles, for example.
It can burn your company, just like raising capital before you're ready or not knowing how to spend it. Delegation, I love it. This book changed my life. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Oh, you can't even imagine just how bad it broke my heart that I read this 8 years after it came across my desk. And he says in the book, one of the greatest reasons, the biggest reason that businesses fail is they delegate by abdication.
Yeah.
I had to look the word up. I didn't know what it meant, but I could tell he was honest enough to look it up. And that's That's delegating by asking people to do the things you don't want to do,
Mm.
and then creating like a unicorn in your company. So this person ends up helping you in that and in other areas, and you kind of you stop paying attention to it. Well, what happens when they quit? Or what happens when they die? Or what happens when they get recruited somewhere else? You end up with a system and a process that is now out of control. You don't have the ability to maintain it anymore because you no longer have their guidance, and you end up crippling and hurting your business in yet another way. So I love what you just talked about with Roy Osing. You've got to learn how to delegate. I think the most important reality there is most of you out there listening right now, you are chief visionary officers, or you are chief fulfillment officers. You are not designed to run the business by yourself. You're not designed to scale it. You need to bring in individuals who can help you as a team build your legacy to fruition. I've never, ever met a solopreneur who's winning. I've met solopreneurs who are faking it and they're telling you they're winning. I've met solopreneurs who step on the heads and shoulders of all their team members and don't want to admit who has helped them because their ego is through the roof. But I've personally never met a solopreneur who's won, and I've never been able to make it work either. So delegation, there's a skill to it. There's an art, but it's like if I want to open a mechanic shop, I'm not going to run the mechanic shop. I don't know how to fix cars, right? But I do know the customer service side of it. That's an area I might be able to help in. But I need to get a mechanic in to actually like get in and mess with the cars and tell me what tools they need. And I need to be willing to listen to that. I wish more entrepreneurs would realize that the size of their current grape is minuscule compared to the size of the giant watermelon they could have if they would share with those who are supposed to help them build. They don't want to share. Can't help people who don't want to share.
Mm-hmm. You think that's the reason people don't want to share, or is there another underlying reason? Maybe they don't know how, and this is where your process come in.
That's a really important point. I can't speak directly to entrepreneurs have too many vibes on that, but so I train a Spanish team, right? We call it Oportunidades de Trabajo para Latinos, opportunities for Latinos. And one of my Latinos, as I was talking with the team about helping people find a job, she said, this is her, I didn't say this. She said, Jackson, the problem is Latinos don't want to read. They don't want to put the work in to read. And I said, I really appreciated her perspective. And I said, I want to be real though. If I had no hope in life that I would ever get an opportunity, I wouldn't want to read either. I'd be lazy. I would personally. I wouldn't have why? What's the point of pursuing better opportunities in life if I don't feel like it's available to me, right? That's a hopeless state, and it's one of defeat. And so what we have to do in this case is I've got to inspire my Latino audience to understand that there's an outcome available for them that is different than anything that they've experienced in the past. And I have to be really delicate and careful with that hope, because it's like a baby. You can't drop a baby, right? That can kill it. You can't drop a glass. And so if their hope is tiny and small and fragile, we have to be ultra careful with it. So entrepreneurs out there, I hope that you feel the power of hope in my message, that yes, you can win, and you've got to find teams who can help build your hope, who can help build your infrastructure. And if you don't have somebody like that, then call me. Ask me to help. I'm happy to help. If you're not in a position to win, I'm going to let you know very softly that, look, I can't see us pulling this off. My team will let you know that we do not contract people who are a risk of failure, and we do no guarantees. We let people know it's hard work, it's sacrifice, and it takes teamwork, and we have to see that this business is in a position to win. And if we can't, we got to be honest and open with people and let them know that you might be better off getting the job, but we're not going to like crush people's visions on it. But we have a responsibility as providers to really help people see what's possible. And at the end of the day, if I had told J.K. Rowling that she was, had a stupid idea for writing a book on a napkin, and she had listened to me, then I would have prevented her from becoming a billionaire, right? So my thoughts, I try not to come at people and say things. I would tell J.K. Rowling, if I met somebody today who's writing a book on a napkin, I would say, hey, That's awesome. Like, congratulations. And I hope you find all the resources you can to do this. I've never seen anybody besides J.K. Rowling when doing that. So I would go to her and ask her for help. See if she can give you some insights. But anybody else that wants to pitch you stuff and you're going to follow that path, like, just ignore the rest of us, right? We can guide people.
What are your criteria to decide whether you're going to work with the entrepreneurs or not, other than the values that they hold?
Yeah. Well, that's really it. It's those values. So you kind of handcuffed me on that one, but here's the cool
really,
thing.
because you already mentioned them.
Well, if people come on my show, right? So anybody can come on our show and share their vision. And you're going to get the super secrets that some people would say are kind of dark. But if somebody comes into my show, right, and they come on and they say, oh, well, I've already been on 200 podcasts, so I'm ready to go. I know they're not very loving. I know that they lack humility. I know that they're trying to show off instead of show their work. They come on and they're humble. They showcase that they're great leaders. Again, I'm going to look at these virtues. It's all I'm looking at in the process. If we feel comfortable with them, if we feel excited by what they share, if they get excited by what we're doing, they show appreciation and gratitude for what we're doing. They get and say, hey, my podcast doesn't have this level of refinement. How did you do this? Do you guys do this for others? Right? We're looking for people who really want to belong in our community and who want to be a part of what we're doing. If we don't get signs of that, then what we would do at the end is, even with the macho person who's like, oh, look at my cool sunglasses and my car that I don't own. Even if they're kind of awkward about bro marketing, or they're boss babes that kind of are all about themselves, we're still going to meet them with as much respect as possible. And we're going to finish the episode. We're going to thank them for their time. The episode will be out in 3 to 4 weeks. Have a wonderful day. And we're going to send them packing. We're going to send them away. Go away, go away, go away. We don't have time for people who don't want to be with us. I want people to truly want to work with me, because that makes it fun. I don't want people who are coming at me every day. Well, what did you do for me? Or, oh, I think this is better than what you're doing. Like, I don't have time for ego. Ego hurts. I'm done with it.
So for the ones who decide to work with you, how do you help them? And what are some of the breakthroughs that you've seen with your clients?
So we worked with a mortgage company. The spectrum ranges, guys. You're not going to have the same results of what I'm about to mention, by the way. Like, very, very rare. You have to have all the variables in your favor. So in this case, they wanted us to, the entrepreneur wanted help from a psychotherapy standpoint. And my business partner, Dr. Todd Snyder, is one of the best peak performance coaches in the world. So they were working together on that. Now, this same gentleman, he had Salesforce and ClickUp, and he wanted the two systems to communicate better so that when people bought, they were then able to be fulfilled appropriately by the team, and they had some mishaps in that. So we ended up bringing in Matthias out of Argentina to help us with the alignment of that. Well, at the same time, I'm evaluating the business model as a whole, and I hear him say that he hates his call center team in the Philippines. He doesn't hate the team, the people. He hates running it and managing it, right? And so I said, well, let me take it over. I'll do one training with them per week on Mondays for 1 hour, but don't sacrifice this. So I ran the numbers for him. He hadn't checked his numbers. He was paying $7,500 for the call center per month, and he was already making a profit of $32,000. And he was ready to shut it down because it was driving him crazy. I was like, don't shut it down. I was like, this is working really well. Let me train him. So I went and I listened to a couple of phone calls, and I saw that nobody knew how to talk about the company. When people would say, hey, we contacted Quicken Loans, or we contacted Rocket Mortgage and whatever the other big one is. What's your company? Why are y'all involved? They didn't know how to answer that. So they had a 1% transfer rate on average. I went in that first Monday, I trained them how to talk about the team, how to talk about the company, and they all went from a 1% transfer rate to a 4% transfer rate. The 4% transfer rate individual, we had one person on the team, the manager, she went to a 16% transfer rate. So now I'm looking at that as a strategist going, oh, cool. I can also teach them to do what she does. But with that one movement, they went from 32,000 in monthly revenues to over 108,000 on the exact same spend. So it can be that fast if the variables exist and if I have open access to different departments. I mean, we recruited managers for him. We worked with bringing on new candidates for jobs. There's a lot of things that we got involved with because we play ball at the C level. Chief marketing officer, chief operating officer, chief executive officer. Yeah, we get chief legal officers involved, chief technology officers, and I forgot one, but you get the idea. Those types of operational supports means, and it's back to this book, you don't hire an executive and then tell them what to do. That's not how executive relationships work. You hire an executive and you empower them with enough information so that they can go and do what they know they need to do in order to create the success that you need. And as they evaluate the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, an effective executive will focus in on empowering you to stay focused on your strengths and your opportunities while they fix the weaknesses and the threats that exist. And ideally, we stop measuring executives based on days' performance, weeks' performance, or months' performance. We measure the executives based on quarterly performances. I see so many business owners doing 20-minute interviews, calling it good, and acting like they landed a rock star because they worked at such and such company, right? Or saying, hey, you know what, we want you to come in, but we want you to do this scope of work. Why not let the painter paint, right? You got an artist, let them paint what they want to feel inspired to paint. You got to do the same thing with executives. So that's one side. The other side, the goal of Power Launch is to put brands in a position so that within 45 to 180 days, that's 1.5 months to 6 months timeline. If you do the work with us, you show up as a great leader and inspire us, you're being loving, patient, persistent, consistent, and reliable. If we can see that and feel that and you're leading with us, you should be at $20,000 per month in new revenues. And that's a minimum. But again, how many of if we were to look at a quarterback camp, how many are going to have the disciplines to become the next Tom Brady? Very few. I need the people who are going to put in the work. If they're not going to put in the work, don't waste your time.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn all of this that you're sharing now? The values, maybe you were inborn with, or did you cultivate them in a different way? And then the knowledge that helped you put together these processes and tools.
My mom was a single mom of 6, and her home was filled with love. My dad was the most abusive, spiritually and mentally person that I've ever seen. And that was to his stepkids, not to me. But they returned the favor to me, as did my stepmom. So I grew up in one home filled with love, one home filled with hate and abuse. And that allowed me to start really looking at what did I want for my life. I wanted what my mom had to offer. And so I learned to lean into those virtues. I'm a learner through and through. I have that gift. StrengthsFinder 2.0, my number one trait, learner. And so as much as I might know, I will always keep the humble reality present that there's so much I don't know about these subjects. And so being willing to experiment, right? Being willing to know that somebody's not challenging me as a human being. If they see something differently, they're just granting me a perspective I can't see, right? And so if we look at my thumb right now, if you're looking at one side and I'm looking at the other side, two people typically fight over the fact that one says, I see a fingernail, and the other one says, you're lying, and they can't look at the multiple perspectives. Well, perspectives in life aren't just a matter of physical objects. There's a time context associated with it. There's cultural context. There's emotional cadence, tone. I've spent a long time, I spend a lot of time reading psychological, emotional content, trying to understand, what I want my life to feel like. I want peace. I want joy, right? That's really what I focus on, peace and joy. And everything else that comes on top of that is a bonus. And the best way for me to find peace and joy is to give peace and joy to others. And so love, again, I skipped that one a little bit, but that's kind of that overlapping foundation. It's the greatest power that allows us to gravitate towards peace and joy. Anytime I screw it up, the opportunity for all of us, right? Say, well, I don't care about people, or whatever, wherever you're at on this, I can choose to forgive myself instantly. If I make a mistake, I don't wait and say, I'm going to forgive myself tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll start better. No, I dive right into forgiveness immediately and say, I'm going to forgive myself right now, allow that power to soak in, and I'm going to immediately step right back into being my best self. I think we all do ourselves a disfavor when we complicate that and feel like we have to drag it out or beat ourselves up or feel guilty. There's nothing good that comes out of carrying guilt or harboring negative feelings about ourselves or about others. It is so liberating to just dive right into forgiveness, love, peace, and ultimately unlock joy. That is a hard one for me to unlock, but it is one that I'm grateful for lots of books that have helped me figure that out and lots of people who helped me gravitate towards it.
Mm-hmm. How do you integrate love and care in business terms? And I'm going to clarify my question here. When you say you care about people, and at the same time, though, you decide not to help a part of them, but to help people,
It's a great question.
other people that, the people
Yep.
that have the values and the character and the opportunity and the basis for their business, you decide to help. So that's care. What is the other part? Is it also care? The ones you dismiss?
Well, that's a great question. So it's not as much of a dismissing process as much as it is a realization they don't want what we have. They don't want to work with us. So I'm a single guy. There's plenty of women out there who think that, oh my gosh, he's such a great guy. He plays the guitar. He's got a business. He does this, that, and the other. And there's people who will fall in love with your best side, right? Oh, he's got nice looking eyes. He's got curly hair. And I understand the value of having relationships that appreciate my good side, but they're overlooking all of the realities of the bad that comes along with me. I've got baggage too. I'm a human being. I have my weaknesses. And so instead of allowing people to just fall in love with the good that they come across, I'm much more likely to set a healthy boundary and say, just so you know, I'm probably going to care about the 8 billion people more than you and what you want for your life. And I don't think you're going to want me as a husband in that case, right? Or I'm married to my children. I've got 4 kids that are going to mean more to me than you. And if you can't understand and accept that, and I don't need to have those conversations, right? Because
you just dismissed all candidates right off the bat.
maybe, right? And that's the good thing. Maybe one day I'll have the right one come along. But exactly, my point is Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, these are individuals who, their spouses did not get to spend lots of time with them. And Nelson Mandela's wife ended up leaving him right before he got out of jail or prison. Martin Luther King and his wife, they had some difficulties in their marriage. You look at any major rock star, probably not the best from a virtue standpoint, but there's a sacrifice that comes with success. And you don't have to sacrifice your relationship, but I do believe you have to sacrifice your selfish desires in a lot of cases. So yes, I wouldn't do well with somebody who is all about the meme life. If memes are important to people, I'm not gonna really get along with them too well, because the meme world says don't trust others, don't give your trust out there. In reality, I'm a big believer in God. God trusts me every day, even though I'm going to mess up. I'm going to screw things up, yet he still empowers me with trust to build my own life. And so I need to learn, how do I become so strong as an individual that I can trust my kids to make the right decisions for themselves at the right ages, or I can trust my entrepreneurs or my employees or my team members, and when they fail, I don't have to look at that and shame them. I can look at that and say, what do we learn? How can I help so this doesn't happen in the future? So there's a different type of standard, but most people who don't want to work with me will see throughout the process that it's not in alignment, and they'll disappear on their own. We don't have to kick anybody out unless they're hurting others. If they're hurting others in the process, I will bring that to light if I can see that they care enough to fix it. Otherwise, we might just bow out of the situation and move on. That's a hard subject, and all entrepreneurs, you're all going to face it. And so whatever lessons you guys learn, teach me as well. There's so much to learn.
So there used to be this, I would say at the beginning, maybe 2010, they started coming up with this concept in personal development to focus, which is partially what you were talking about, to focus on the
100%.
business, so you cannot split your focus on 10,000 other things. But at the same time, you do keep focused to the things that are important to you, your children, your music, all other things, and you still have work-life balance. So do you still believe in this concept of the focus? How does it work
Yes.
for you?
That's the only way, to me, that's my only way that I can be present and intentional with so many different things. Is that focus. Now, I'll tie it to two concepts. You talked about earlier love in a work environment. And I know for most people that's not possible. That's like gooey and woo-woo and stuff. I just made a choice to say, I'm doing this. I didn't ask for permission. It was a non-negotiable for me. I just said, I don't care what the business world says. I'm bringing love into the business world. I'm bringing my family into the business world. And if people don't like that, just like The Rock says, The Rock said, some people don't like me. Some people don't have good taste. If a business doesn't want a family involved, then, that's their prerogative, but I want nothing to do with that business. So back to my situation, as a single father of 4, who only gets my kids every other weekend, and I get them on holidays for extent, so half the summer, and for the holiday weeks, we share those, right? But I've got 4 children that I've got to figure out in one day, how do I help all 4 children feel unique, individual, that they have a personal relationship with me, that their relationships are going well, that their school's going well, their spiritual life's going well, they have their temporal needs taken care of. Like that's a lot to manage as a parent, period. But when you've got one full day to figure that out, the only way I can do that is by hitting my knees and praying and asking God, what do I do? How do I do this? And opening my heart and mind to all the tools available to myself and thinking through what's going to guide me. And usually that answer comes in my heart and my mind combined. And by having access to that resource and having full confidence in it, it gives me full confidence that even if what I do seems strange, or even if what I do seems limited, I now know that that's what I'm supposed to do. And I can be grateful that I was given that guidance and I'm able to move forward confidently knowing that God's going to bridge all the other gaps that I could not bridge. And that same lesson applies to business. I can only do so much in a day as an entrepreneur. So I do my best to do what I feel is best. And then I can go to bed knowing I did everything that I could. But time management, again, back to the effective executive, his lesson in there says, let your secretary document every single minute of your day and don't fire her. Because you're going to want to fire her for exposing just how ineffective you are. Because you're going to see how many gaps you have, how many things you wasted your time on. Then from there, once you have that true authentic log, now you can look at areas of optimization and where you can maximize your life. So do I rest? Of course I do. Do I play volleyball? Absolutely. This weekend, did I go to 2 trunk or treats? Yes, I did. Did I go to church? Of course I did. Did I squeeze in meetings in between sometimes and miss certain aspects of that to talk to certain clients who need my attention today? Of course I did, because I care about the people. And so to be present and my phone stays on silent. Most people have notifications going off like crazy. No, I have all apps turned off, all fun apps on one phone. And then I have my productive phone where the only thing that buzzes is if a phone call comes through. Most of the time I ignore those, but I at least see the alert. So if I see a client name, I know that when I'm done with whatever I'm doing, I will call them back at the appropriate time. So we are supposed to be masters of our time, but most people are controlled by their apps or by their calendars. I'm not. Mine guides me, but I still have the freedom to do what I want with it. And I still have the responsibility to do what is best for those that I serve.
Well, I generally agree with the effectiveness. I was still going to show or talk about the other part of the thumb. And it is that I know a few entrepreneurs, let's say two, I know for sure, that guide their businesses based on rather based on intuition, not so much on the effectiveness of what they're supposed to do. They have systems and processes at play, but they create whenever they're inspired to do so. So they don't have like a fixed schedule of doing things at a certain time. They don't think about effectiveness. They do things based on inspiration. So
I think it goes hand in hand. Again, I mentioned prayer. Prayer is that pinnacle point. So if my day needs to be derailed by something, it's very easy to derail. Like right now, our podcast was supposed to start at 11. It didn't. And that was okay. I used that time effectively, right? Then when it did start, we dove in. And then you started recording. I was like, oh, awesome. She's a go-getter. Zarina's amazing. She wants to jump right in. And so we were supposed to end at noon, and it's 12:14. And I'm okay with that. I choose to be here, right? If I didn't, I could easily say, I've got to run. Can we wrap this up? But because I take full control and realize, I don't have a podcast for another 15 minutes. This conversation is so important for people to understand. And there's so much harmony in the process of intuition and time management. I wish more executives, more leaders dove deeper into this because they're not given the opportunity to, Zarina. When's the last time we heard a business conference put somebody on stage as a main speaking session that talked about infrastructure, right? Never. They don't want to talk about it. It's boring. When's the last time they put that main speaking session on time management or being effective or intuition? Maybe some life coaching and law of attraction stuff. Right. We'll get into that, but we're getting into the nitty-gritty details that so many people overlook and wonder why they fail. We don't need to wonder why we fail. We need to look and see, what are we not applying to our lives that are being shared by people who have discovered success or results that we aspire to have ourselves.
Fantastic. Jackson, where are you taking your business next? What do you want to achieve with it?
Next, I'm going on a podcast in 14 minutes. So that's next, right? Vision Pros Live in the present. It's a wonderful program. It's an opportunity to talk to other visionaries and find out what's going on. But let's pretend that the next guest is a client already. And you know what? So let's talk about that. He's a client. His name's Aswand Cruikshank. He's got his own podcast as well. And he helps in terms of helping corporations create a playoff system, if you will, for the leaders they work with so they can win. Well, if Aswan signs a $10 million client tomorrow and he wants our help to support and fulfill on that, in that case, we would consider taking on a budget, marketing operations budget of between $150,000 and $300,000. That's new for us. I'm just announcing that right now. It's always been $150, but we have had a number of strategic partners join forces with us. So Chad Cooper is now part of our team. Chad Cooper was the #1 coach for Tony Robbins for 6 years. Barbara Ann Gardenhire Mills has joined forces with us of Purposefilled Solutions and Evolution. She's got a TV show in New Jersey. She's bringing it underneath the First Class Business umbrella now. And she's all about civility, inclusion, equality, and diversification. She's a great leader out of New Jersey. So Roderick Jefferson is right now, he's on the horizon. He's considering joining us. All of these executives.
What do you mean by joining you? How are they, in what capacity are they joining you?
Great question. We don't define those on the front end. So what we do is we look at the opportunity as a blank slate and we say, okay, if we want to work with the LeBron James of the world, we can't come to them and try to put them in a box. We can't come to them and say, how much can we pay or how much do we have to pay LeBron James? That's the same thing as asking LeBron, what's the least amount we can pay you? It's a terrible recruiting strategy. So instead, when we meet with these leaders, we look at it from they might be a strategic partner, they might be an investor, they might be a client, they might also have team members on their teams that want to join the process. Let's come together and explore that with all of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats together, and let's see how we bring that in. So Chad and I are in the middle of our equity arrangements for First Class Business because he walks the talk, and that took a couple of weeks to be able to see. Meanwhile, his institute that he's launching with Bill Carmody, of BillCarmody.com, They're looking at building a wisdom institute, and they want me as a third partner in relation to that. Barbara Garden Hire Mills, same thing. We're looking at what equity is going to make sense for the type of value that's there. And then Junative Home Studio Mastery.com as well has just come in, and we're joining forces in all that we're doing. So we're looking at how do we're constantly expanding the size, and that's not a watermelon or a grape situation. We're looking at it as we all have farms and we all have land, and we're all acquiring more land constantly. And what we need to look at, all right, let's combine the resources, our tractors, our people, our assets, our seeds, and let's orchestrate. And I typically am the one who kind of orchestrates that process of project management because I find it a lot of fun. But I don't put people in a box. And so many business owners are so uncomfortable with the idea of that because they want to try to solve those things in 20-minute Zoom calls. And again, back to effective executive, we need at least 3 hours per week with our executives, not per month, not per year, 3 hours per week to be able to talk to them and develop opportunities. So where do we go next? I'll say where we're going in the end. My hope is that First Class Business gets to the point where we are a competitive influence in the space of Ernst & Young, Deloitte, McKinsey & Company, Virgin Startups, Y Combinator level interactions. And that means that most of the individuals who are out there that might become clients or strategic partners, they're all individuals who could contribute to this, and we could spread the wealth in ways that isn't often done. So.
Thank you. I'm going to let you go to your next meeting because it seems very important. I truly appreciate everything you shared, and I was hooked on the whole time while you were speaking. Very interesting views. Thank you for sharing and for living your forward-thinking ideas. Yeah. And good luck.
Thank you so much for asking such great questions, Irina, too. You ask authentic questions. A lot of podcasters play softball and they don't dive into the details, and it shows the strength of your leadership. So I'll be tuning in to Grow and Learn, and we'll be getting our whole team tuned in. So we look forward to seeing the episode come out and other guests that are on your show.
Thank you for listening to Grow and Learn. We hope that you found our podcast informative, engaging, and inspiring. Our mission is to help you keep growing and learning, and we hope that our conversations and insights have provided you with practical advice and useful perspectives. If you're looking for personalized support and guidance to help you achieve your personal or professional growth objectives, I offer a range of services to help. As a trusted management partner and mentor, I work with businesses in the process of transformation, looking for new streams of business, as well as M&A. With an extensive professional network of experts and mentors, I can bring on board the right person or team based on the specific needs of the company I'm working with. To learn more about the services I offer and how I can help you achieve your goals, visit my website at growandlearn.org. You can also reach out to me via email or social media. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode of Grow and Learn, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us, and it helps us to continue to create content that is relevant and valuable to our listeners. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights and perspectives with you in the future.